where many things to be memorized. And first, what is biodiversity? For this understanding, in the textbook it is given today on the planet Earth. So they have given some examples like 20,000 species of ants are present, 3 lakh species of beetles are present, 28,000 species of fishes and 20,000 species of orchids. Like this, some numbers are given to make you realize the diversity among the life forms which is existing on the planet, how amazing it is. And according to IUCN 2004 list, so till today we have recorded 1.5 million species of plants and animals together on the planet Earth. So with this it is very clear, the planet Earth is gifted with a greatest diversity of plant species and animal species. And how and why this diversity among the life forms came into existence, and what is the importance of biodiversity for the existence of stable ecosystems on the planet, and what is the need to conserve the biodiversity, because due to industrialization and other man-made activities, today many species of plants and animals are at the verge of extinction or facing the threat of extinction. So what is the importance of biodiversity to the existence of an ecosystem, and for safeguard of this planet Earth? Such aspects are discussed in this chapter, that is biodiversity. First, students should remember the term biodiversity is coined by Walter Rosen. So if the question is asked who coined the term biodiversity, answer should be Walter Rosen. And in the textbook this name is given, that is Edward Wilson, a sociobiologist who popularized the term biodiversity. So sociobiologist who popularized the term biodiversity, answer should be Edward Wilson. And who coined the term biodiversity, answer should be Walter Rosen. Okay, so in this chapter, what are the topics discussed? I have written for our easy understanding. The topics discussed in this chapter are levels of biodiversity, patterns of biodiversity, importance of biodiversity for healthy ecosystems, loss of biodiversity, that is reasons for biodiversity loss. And as we know, day by day many species of plants and animals are facing the threat of extinction. There is a desperate need to conserve the biodiversity. So that's why methods of biodiversity conservation are also discussed in this chapter. So let us have a brief synopsis for this chapter. When we look into first part, that is levels of biodiversity. Biodiversity exists at 3 levels. So according to our textbook, genetic diversity, species diversity, and ecological diversity. So genetic diversity is nothing but the diversity within the same species at its genetic level is called genetic diversity. And for this, if you remember, we have the example of the plant Rauwolfia ovitoria. Rauwolfia ovitoria is the plant. It is a medicinal plant which grows in Himalayan mountain ranges. And Rauwolfia ovitoria is the source of a drug reserpine. So reserpine is the drug extracted from the plant Rauwolfia ovitoria, and students should remember reserpine is anti-hypertension drug. If you remember what is hypertension, when the blood pressure increases than normal, that is normal blood pressure is 120 by 80 mm of Hg. So when blood pressure increases than normal because of any reason, that condition is called hypertension. And to treat the patient suffering from hypertension, the drug used is reserpine. So reserpine works against hypertension, that's why it is called anti-hypertension drug. And reserpine is produced from a plant growing in Himalayan mountain ranges, that is Rauwolfia vomitoria, but the reserpine produced from all the plants of Rauwolfia vomitoria do not have concentration and potency. So this potency and concentration of reserpine varies from plant to plant. So if you ask me the question why, though all the plants belong to the same species, they are having slight difference at their genetic level. So that's why the efficiency and concentration of the reserpine varies from plant to plant. It is very clear. Rauwolfia vomitoria plants growing at different mountain ranges, they are different at their genetic level. That's why it is the example for genetic diversity, and there only it is mentioned. In India, we have 50,000 varieties of rice. So rice, that is commonly we say paddy, biological name is Oryza sativa. So 50,000 varieties are present in the same species. With that it is very clear. So rice in India, if the question is asked, the crop with highest genetic diversity, that is rice, 50,000 varieties are present within the rice, and there are 1,000 varieties present in the mango. So more the number of varieties within the same species, more is the genetic diversity. So next is species diversity. So it is what in terms of number of species in an area, that is called species diversity. For in your textbook they have given more number of amphibian species are present in Western Ghats when compared to Eastern Ghats. So with this it is very clear, amphibian species diversity is more in Western Ghats when compared to Eastern Ghats. Okay. So finally, ecological diversity. It is the diversity at the level of types of ecosystems. Like India is having variety of ecosystems. In India you find deserts, grasslands, tropical forests, marshy meadows, etc. Like this variety of ecosystems are present in India, but you cannot find these many varieties of ecosystems in colder countries like Norway, Sweden, Germany, etc. So when more the number or types of ecosystems, more is the ecological diversity of that region. So these are the three levels of biodiversity which are discussed: genetic diversity, species diversity, and ecological diversity. And for CET, students should remember it is expressed in another three levels which we call alpha diversity, beta diversity, and gamma diversity. So what is alpha diversity? Diversity within the community. Understand? So the diversity within the biological community is called alpha diversity. Diversity in between the communities is called beta diversity, and diversity at a very large scale means the total biodiversity of a landscape, etc. is called gamma diversity. So this point is also important for competitive exams, like what is alpha diversity, what is beta diversity, such question can be asked. Alpha means diversity within the community, beta is diversity in between the community, gamma diversity is diversity at a very large scale, diversity in the entire landscape, like that. Okay, so this is about the first topic, levels of biodiversity. And coming to patterns of biodiversity. So in patterns of biodiversity, two concepts are given, that is latitudinal gradient and species area relationship. So this latitudinal gradient and species area relationship come under patterns of biodiversity. You know very well. Based on latitudinal distribution on the planet Earth, three important climatic zones are present. In previous class we have discussed the three important climatic zones are tropical, subtropical, and temperate. So tropical zone extends from 0 degree latitude to 20 degree latitude, subtropical 20 to 40, temperate 40 to 60. So temperate is the colder climatic zone, tropical is the hotter climatic zone. So 0 degree latitude is nothing but equator. So when you are moving from equator towards the higher latitudes, means when you are moving away from the equator, what happens to the biodiversity? Biodiversity decreases. So with that it is very clear, biodiversity of a region is influenced by latitudinal gradients. The lower latitudes, means the latitudes present close to the equator, are characterized by more species diversity or more biodiversity, So students should remember which is the latitudinal gradient with the highest biodiversity, that is 23.5 degree northern latitude to 23.5 degree southern latitude. So 23.5 north to 23.5 south. This is the latitudinal gradient with highest biodiversity. And in the textbook they have given one example like the regions which are present close to the equator. So where you can see more number of species of birds, like they have mentioned. Colombia is directly distributed on the equator, very close to the equator. So that's why in Colombia 1300 species of birds are present. When you are moving from the equator, what happens? I said species diversity decreases. And with this example it becomes very clear. Colombia is very close to the equator. That's why 1300 species of birds are present. When you go to New York is at 41 degree northern latitude. And in New York, only 105 species of birds are present. If you go little further to 71 degree northern latitude where Greenland is present, in Greenland only 56 species of birds are present. So with this it is very clear, when you are moving away from the 0 degree latitude, that is equator, towards the poles, what is happening? Biodiversity is decreasing. So latitudinal gradient influences the biodiversity. The latitudes close to the equator are characterized by more species diversity, and latitudes away from the equator naturally have less biodiversity or lower species richness. Okay, so SAR stands for what? Species area relationship, and it was the idea of whom? Alexander Van Humboldt. When Alexander Van Humboldt was doing his research in South American Amazonian rainforest. So in Amazonian rainforest, Alexander Van Humboldt observed that with increasing explored area, species diversity also increases, but up to a certain extent. This concept is popularly called species area relationship. And for this species area relationship, on the log scale, relation is going to be a straight line. And on the straight line, what is the equation? Log S is equals to log C plus Z log A. So the relation between, like what I said, explored area and species diversity when we plot a graph. And this relation turns out to be a straight line on the log scale. Equation is log S is equals to log C plus Z log A. So in this equation, S stands for species diversity, C stands for y-intercept, Z is regression coefficient, otherwise called slope of the line, whereas A stands for area. And the same relation, what is that relation I am talking about? Explored area and species diversity. Usually, if you look into definition wise, what Alexander Van Humboldt said, with increasing explored area, species diversity increases, but up to a certain extent. If you follow this equation, it turns out to be a rectangular hyperbola. On rectangular hyperbola, equation is S is equals to CA power Z. So students should not confuse. Species area relationship equation on hyperbola, then answer should be S is equals to CA power Z. Equation for species area relationship on log scale or on a straight line, that equation goes as what? Log S is equals to log C plus Z log A. So in this always they ask question like this. Equation they will give in question most of the times. If the equation is given, log S is equals to log C plus Z log A. In this, Z represents what? C represents what? Such questions are asked. S represents species richness or species diversity. C is y-intercept. Z stands for what? Slope of the line. It is otherwise called regression coefficient. This Z is very, very important. Slope of the line. When value of slope of the line increases, species diversity also increases. According to ecologists, Z value lies between 0.1 to 0.2, irrespective of the region, irrespective of the species. So usually Z value lies between what? 0.1 to 0.2. But Z value can be more when you talk about diversity at highest level. Means the diversity of frugivorous birds and mammals on all the continents. When you talk like this, Z value may increase. It lies between what? 0.62, 1.2, and one example is given there. So that Z value for frugivorous birds on all the continents, so directly you can remember its value is 1.15. So these questions are very important, memory based, students should remember. So that is about patterns of biodiversity, and importance of biodiversity is explained by David Tillman, long-term ecosystem experiment using outdoor plots. So students should remember, long-term ecosystem experiments using outdoor plots explain importance of biodiversity to stability of the ecosystem, and it is on the name of whom? David Tillman. Next, one more important concept, Rivet-Popper hypothesis given by Paul Ehrlich. So Paul Ehrlich Rivet-Popper hypothesis, outdoor field plot experiments of David Tillman explain what? Importance of biodiversity to the ecosystem. Next is loss of biodiversity. As I said, today because of various reasons, because of man-made reasons, many species of plants and animals are facing the threat of extinction. In the textbook, the 4 reasons for biodiversity loss are discussed. If you remember, the 4 reasons for biodiversity loss are popularly explained as what? Evil quartet. What is evil quartet? 4 reasons which are together called 4 reasons for biodiversity loss, together expressed as evil quartet. So if you remember, what are the 4 reasons? Habitat loss and fragmentation, overexploitation, alien species invasion, and co-extinction. Okay, so let me repeat. What are the 4 important reasons for biodiversity loss? Habitat loss and fragmentation, alien species invasion, co-extinction. So like this, total 4 reasons are there which explain what they are the main reasons for what? Biodiversity loss. So these 4 reasons for biodiversity loss together popularly called what? Evil quartet. So we'll discuss details later. And finally, now we came to know, day by day many number of species of plants and animals are facing the threat of extinction. So today we have a desperate need, want to conserve the biodiversity. We are using various methods to conserve the biodiversity. All methods which are used to conserve the biodiversity are classified into ex situ conservation and in situ conservation. Name itself indicates. In situ conservation. In situ, simply you have to remember, on site means if an animal is facing the threat of extinction, it is not taken from its native place and protected in some other area. It is protected in its native place where it is living itself. Such type of conservation is called in situ conservation. So in situ conservation is otherwise called on-site biodiversity conservation. For this, we have examples like biodiversity hotspots, national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, sacred groves, etc. come under what? In situ conservation. And apart from this, other method is ex situ conservation. So ex situ, name itself indicates off-site conservation. Means if a plant is facing the threat of extinction, it is taken out of its natural habitat and it is protected in a place called botanical garden. So then it becomes what? Ex situ conservation. So what are the examples for ex situ conservation method? Like zoological parks, botanical gardens, wildlife safari parks, gene banks and cryopreservations. These are the examples for ex situ biodiversity conservation. So this is all about synapses related to the chapter biodiversity. Let me repeat. Who coined the term biodiversity? Walter Rosen. Who popularized the term biodiversity? Edward Wilson. And in this chapter, what are the topics we have? Levels of biodiversity, patterns of biodiversity, importance of biodiversity to stability of ecosystem, loss of biodiversity and conservation of biodiversity. These are the topics discussed. Now let us solve the worksheet. let us solve the worksheet now. So, see the first question. Which one of the following has maximum genetic diversity in India? Already I told you, in rice, there are 50,000 varieties. So, when number of varieties are more within a species, genetic diversity also will be more. So, according to textbook, you can remember the crop or the plant with highest genetic diversity in India, our answer should be rice. And if you follow the textbook, it is also mentioned that in mango, there are 1,000 varieties. So, they may ask you another question. The plant or the crop with the second most genetic diversity in India, if we follow our textbook, we can choose the answer mango. So, highest genetic diversity because in the same rice, though it is of same species, we have 50,000 varieties. More the number of varieties, more is the genetic diversity. So, in mango we have 1,000 varieties. So, you can remember that point also. So, for first question, option B is correct, that is rice. Next, second question. The variety of species and their relative abundance present in a region is, so variety of species, it is clearly mentioned. Ultimately, we will be talking about species diversity. The number of species, you should remember this word. We call it species richness. What is species richness means? The number of species present in an area. More is the number of species present in an area, more is the species richness. So, with increasing species diversity, species richness of a region also increases. We use the word one more. Species evenness we say. So, species evenness means the distribution of species. So, how the species are distributed. When you consider two regions A and B, like in region A, 50 species are present. In region B also 50 species are present. So, species are evenly distributed. So, like whenever we are talking about evenness, we will be talking about distribution of the species. Whenever we talk about richness, we will be talking about abundance or number of species or diversity of the species. So, option B for this. Next, question number 3. Number of species per unit area is called, already I told you, number of species per unit area is called species richness. The number of varieties of distribution is called species evenness. So, number of species per unit area, answer is species richness, that is option C. Next, question number 4. Among the vertebrates, the group that shows highest diversity, vertebrates, you know, the 4 classes of vertebrates are fishes, amphibians, reptiles, birds and mammals. Out of 5 vertebrates groups, the vertebrate group with the highest number of species ultimately is fishes. The first statement in the very first paragraph, it is mentioned 28,000 species of fishes are existing. So, the vertebrate group with the highest diversity, answer should be fishes. And if the question is asked, the vertebrate group with the lowest species diversity, then answer becomes amphibians. The vertebrate group with lowest species diversity means our answer should be amphibians. The vertebrate group with highest species diversity means answer is fishes. So, for question number 4, because question is among the vertebrates, the group that shows highest diversity, option D, fishes is the answer. Next, the species diversity of plants on earth is, in the textbook it is clearly mentioned, according to IUCN 2004 statistics. IUCN stands for what? International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. So, students should remember IUCN, expanded form of IUCN is International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. So, IUCN 2004 statistics. According to IUCN 2004 statistics, what is the world species diversity? around 1.5 billion. Out of this 1.5 billion, 70% are animals only. 70% animals and 22% are plants. Plants contribute to 22% of world species diversity. Animals contribute to 70%, around 70% of the world species diversity. So our question is the species diversity of plants on earth. So answer is option B, that is 22%. Next, question number 6. Which among the following the plant group exhibit greater diversity? So within the plants, which plant group exhibit greater diversity? So options you have algae, ferns, mosses and angiosperms. So out of these options, highest diversity is present in which plant group? Answer is angiosperms. So for question number 6, option D is correct. And to answer this, as we know, there are some pie charts to explain the species diversity. So if you see these pie charts to explain in plant species diversity, fungi and angiosperms are here. So almost you can see, if this is 100% of the plants, so you can almost consider 40+% of fungal species and 40+% of angiosperms are present. So remaining plants, you know, this small fraction indicates algae and this fraction indicates lichens. You know, lichens are the symbiotic association between algae and fungi. And next, coming to in bryophytes, we have mosses and here we have ferns. So ferns and algae, they come under like pteridophyte gymnosperms together. So with this it is very clear, when you look into the plant diversity, maximum species, it is contributed by whom? Angiosperms. Next, almost same number of species of fungi are present. So mosses, algae, lichens, they are fractional. So out of the given options, we have to go with D. For 6th question, option D is correct, that is angiosperms. Next, question number 7. Out of more than 1.5 million known species, the insects are of the total animals. So out of total biodiversity, 70% are animals, and out of the total animals, 70% are insects. So students should remember, out of every 10 animals, 7 are insects only on the planet Earth. Protozoa to mammals we have. Out of every 10 animals existing on the planet Earth, 7 are insects only. So that's why in all the animals, the animal group with the highest species diversity, answer should be insects. Because out of the total animals, 70% are insects only. So for question number 7, option A is correct, that is 70%. Next, the value of Z for frugivorous birds and mammals in tropical forest is found to be, just before in synopsis I told you, value of Z. This question is related to what? Species area relationship equation. And if you remember, what is the species area relationship? Log S is equals to log C plus Z log A. So already I told you, on the straight line, on the log scale, species area relationship is log S is equals to log C plus Z log A. So in this, Z represents what I said, regression coefficient, otherwise called the slope of the line. So Z value usually lies between what I said, 0.1 to 0.2. Irrespective of the region, irrespective of the taxonomic group, ecologists observe that Z value lies between 0.1 to 0.2. But rarely Z value can be more, like 0.6 to 1.2 I said. And here question, the value of Z for frugivorous birds and mammals in tropical forest is found to be, for this according to textbook, answer is 1.15. So option B is correct. Next, question number 9. What is the effect of species diversity as one moves from high to low altitude. You see here, a person is moving from peak of a mountain to the base. So person is moving from what? High altitude to low altitude. So what happens to the species diversity? When person is moving from high altitude to low altitude, species diversity increases. Means it is very clear. So at the base of a mountain, number of species present will be more. With increasing altitude, temperature decreases. With decreasing temperature, species diversity also decreases. So person is moving from high altitude to low altitude. So species diversity increases. Option A is correct. Next, question number 10. Increased diversity contributes to higher productivity. This was evident from the experimental results of David Tillman. If you remember, I told you David Tillman long-term ecosystem experiments using outdoor field plots showed that the plot with more species diversity having more productivity and more stability, and the plot with less species diversity has less productivity and less stability. So it was the idea. The plots with more diversity are having more productivity. Plot with less species diversity having less productivity. It was evident in whose experiments? David Tillman's experiment. So option D is correct for this. Next. In the equation log S is equals to log C plus Z log A. Z represents, already I told you, in the equation log S is equals to log C plus Z log A. Z represents what? Slope of the line. It is otherwise called regression coefficient. So option A is correct. Question number 12. Troublesome American water weed found in India, Eichhornia. You know, it is popularly called terror of Bengal, water hyacinth, whose biological name is Eichhornia craceps. It is not indigenous. It is not belong to India. It is an exotic. Introduced in India, now it has become the most problematic weed. Option A is correct. Question number 13. The most important human activity leading to the extinction of wildlife is option B is correct. Alteration and destruction of the natural habitats. So if you remember, the first and most important reason for biodiversity loss is habitat loss and fragmentation. We know that. Question number 14. Man-made mass extinction of species represent a very severe depletion of biodiversity. This is called anthropogenic extinction. Question number 14. Option C is correct. Name here it is given. Anthropogenic, you know, anthropology, study of human evolution. So wherever you come across anthropon, you should understand anthropon means human. So when due to human intervention, when species of plants and animals are getting extinct at a faster rate, so this type of extinction is called anthropogenic extinction or anthropocentric extinction. So for question number 14, man-made it is, hence option C is correct. Question number 15. Which among the following are more vulnerable to extinction? Amphibians are more vulnerable to extinction. That is the reason the vertebrate group with lowest species diversity, amphibians, I said. Many species of amphibians are facing the threat of extinction, and already many species got extinct. Next question number C. 16. Thylacine, which became extinct, was the native of. In the textbook we have examples for recent extinctions. Like you see, dodo of Mauritius. Dodo bird got extinct in Mauritius. Stellar sea cow belongs to which got extinct in Russia. Quagga got extinct in Africa. And our question is thylacine, which became extinct, was the native of Australia. Important question, students should remember. Quagga of Africa, thylacine of Australia, stellar sea cow of Russia, dodo of Mauritius are the best examples for recent extinctions. Okay, and also you have to remember Bali, Javan and Caspian are the three subspecies of tigers which got recently extinct. Okay, so in many exams they have asked Bali, Javan and Caspian are the three subspecies of tigers which recently got extinct. Okay, so next question number 17. IUCN Red List 2004 documents the extinction of A, we have to identify. Documented the extinction of how many species in the last how many years? That is the question. According to this, our textbook answer. IUCN Red List 2004 documents the extinction of 784 species in last 500 years. So in this question, A is 784, B is 500 years. So option B is correct. Question number 18. Present, like we have to identify A and B in this again. Present how much percentage of mammalian species and how much percentage of gymnosperm species in the world facing the threat of extinction. So this is all I was telling you, memory based chapter, many things you have to memorize. And for this question, like according to IUCN data, on the planet Earth, 23% of mammals and 31% of gymnosperms are facing the extinction. So not only this, you have to remember, according to IUCN data on the planet Earth now, 12% species of birds, 23% species of mammals, 32% species of amphibians and 31% species of gymnosperms are facing the extinction. Altogether, 15,500 species on the planet Earth are facing the extinction. This information is given in the textbook. So, you have to remember as it is. For our question, what percentage of mammals and what percentage of gymnosperms are facing the extinction? I said 23% of mammals, 31% of gymnosperms are facing the threat of extinction. So, for question number 18, option C is correct. Next, question number 19. Which of the following not comes under broadly utilitarian reasons for conserving biodiversity? So if you understand, if the question arises, why we have to conserve biodiversity? Because of the existing biodiversity, we are getting so many products, we are getting so many processes, we are using and we are taking it for granted. And all these products of biodiversity are categorized into So the products of biodiversity are categorized into, based on their value, they are classified into narrowly utilitarian and broadly utilitarian. For narrowly utilitarian, in the textbook they have given the drugs. 25% of all the drugs what we are using today, we are getting from plants. So just imagine, if that plant does not exist, you will never get that drug. If you remember, I said Rauwolfia obituria. Rauwolfia obituria is the source of reserpine, which is used to treat the problem of high blood pressure. Just imagine, if Rauwolfia obituria plant get extinct, you will never get a drug called reserpine. So whatever the drugs we are using today in our everyday life, more than 25% of the drugs are produced from variety of plants, and it comes under what? Narrowly utilitarian. And when you look into broadly utilitarian, we have some examples like whatever the oxygen we are using for our respiratory needs, it is produced from the plants. And some aesthetic value, you enjoy the beauty of flower, you enjoy the beauty of an animal, all these things come under broadly utilitarian. So our question is, which of the following not comes under broadly utilitarian reason for conserving biodiversity? So ultimately, pollination, aesthetic pleasure, controlling soil erosion come under broadly utilitarian. So which does not come under? Option D, 25% drugs sold in market or plant based, because it comes under narrowly utilitarian. Okay, next question, 20. Hotspots of biodiversity are areas with little biodiversity, no endangered species, maximum biodiversity, no threatened species. Hotspots of biodiversity are the areas with maximum biodiversity. They cover very little area, but they contain so many varieties of species of plants and animals. You know, biodiversity hotspot. Biodiversity hotspot was the idea of should remember this. In textbook it is not mentioned. Concept of biodiversity hotspots was given by Norman Mayer. And in India present, how many biodiversity hotspots are there? 3 biodiversity hotspots are there. That is Western Ghats and Sri Lanka. Second one is Indo-Burma, and third one is Himalayan mountain range. So these 3 are the biodiversity hotspots present in India, and in the world total 34 biodiversity hotspots are present. Initially 25 was recognized, later 9 are added. So that's why you should remember, according to our textbook, in present number of biodiversity hotspots in world and India, answer should be 34 and 3. So for question number maximum biodiversity 20, C is the option. Next, first national park of India, you know, Jim Corbett National Park. The first national park of India is Jim Corbett National Park. It is in Uttarakhand. Okay. Next, option C is correct. 22. Number of biodiversity hotspots in India is 3 should be the answer. As already told you, what are the biodiversity hotspot? Western Ghats, Sri Lanka, Indo-Burma and Himalayan mountain range. These are the 3 biodiversity hotspots present in India. Who proposed the concept of biodiversity hotspots? Answer is Norman Mayers. Okay. Next, question number 23. The number of biosphere reserves in India is as of 2017. It is given in the bracket. But actually, according to textbook, if you go, in India, 14 biosphere reserves, 90 national parks and 448 wildlife sanctuaries are present. That is given in the textbook. But in the question it is added, the number of biosphere reserves in India is as of 2017. According to our textbook, only 14 are there. So it should be more than 14. So out of the given options, suitable is 18 for this. Okay. So for question number 23, option D is correct. Which one of the following is an example of ex situ conservation? I was telling you, biodiversity conservation is of 2 types, in situ conservation and ex situ conservation. In situ means on site, ex situ means off site. The question is, which one of the following is an example for ex situ conservation? So wildlife sanctuary, seed bank, Sacred Grove National Park. Answer is seed bank, right? Because wildlife sanctuary, biodiversity hotspot, national park, sacred groves are the examples for in situ conservation. Out of the given 4 options, seed bank comes under ex situ conservation. For question number 24, option B is correct. Next, question number 25. Conservation in natural habitat is called in situ conservation. I already told you. Conservation in its own habitat. If a plant or animal is protected in its native area itself, in its own habitat, it is called in situ conservation. For question number 25, option A is correct. Next, 26. The first national park in the world is, it is not given in the textbook, you can remember. B. First national park in India means Jim Corbett National Park. First national park in the world, answer is Yellowstone National Park in USA. So option B is correct for question number 26. Next, question number 27. Which one of the following are 2 hotspots of biodiversity in India? Already I told you, out of the given options you can see Western Ghats and Himalayas. Option B, Deccan Plateau and Western Ghats. C, Himalaya and Deccan Plateau. Option D, Western Ghats and Gangetic Plains. You know what are the 3 biodiversity hotspot? Western Ghats, Sri Lanka, so Himalaya. Then what I said, Indo-Burma. Out of the given options, A is correct, right? Western Ghats and Himalayas. Question number 28. Which one of the following is not observed in biodiversity hotspot? Lesser interspecific competition, species richness, endemism, accelerated species loss. Option is A, because biodiversity hotspot is always characterized by species richness, endemism, because many species are confined to that hotspot only, that is called endemism. Accelerated species loss also happens because many endangered species are also present in biodiversity hotspot. So there, interspecific competition is also more, but option is given as what? Lesser interspecific competition. This is not observed in a hotspot. So for question number 28, option A is correct. Next, 29. The government of India in 1980s has introduced a concept to work closely with the local communities for protecting and managing forest. This concept is called joint forest management. In next chapter it is given JFM. JFM stands for joint forest management, because government wanted to protect the forest and where they have involved the local people or local community. So government, by joining the local communities, they are protecting the forest now. This concept is called JFM, stands for joint forest management. Option C is correct. Question number 30. A renewable, exhaustible natural resource is forest. That's all. Because renewable resources can be classified into non-renewable and renewable. So if you can use a resource, if it can be regenerated, that is called renewable resource. And if one resource is existing, if it is used, if you are unable to regenerate, like petrol, etc., we are using today, but we cannot produce it again, that comes under what? Non-renewable resource. When resource is used and if it can be reproduced, that is called renewable. Forest is best example for this. Option B is correct. Next, question number 31. The Indian rhinoceros is a natural inhabitant of which of the Indian state? So Indian rhinoceros is the one-horned rhinoceros. One-horned rhinos are protected in Kaziranga National Park of Assam. So ultimately it is the native of Assam. As an in situ conservation method, forest of Assam is announced as a national park and its name is what? Kaziranga National Park. In Kaziranga National Park of Assam, one-horned rhinos or Indian rhinos are protected. So option B is correct. 32. Which one of the following have the highest number of species in nature? Option insects, right? Already I told you. Out of the total known species, 70% are animals. Out of all the animals, 70% are insects only. So that's why the taxonomic group with highest species diversity, answer should be insects. Option B is correct. Next, 33. Biodiversity of a geographical region represents the diversity in the organisms living in a particular region. So diversity of all the living organisms living in a region always represents what? Biodiversity of that particular region. Option B is correct. Question number 34. The highest number of species in the world is represented by. Highest number of species in the world is represented by. Here you have options. Fungi, mosses, algae, lichens. Already I told you a pie chart. In a pie chart I have shown you fungi are more and angiosperms are more. Anyways, we don't have angiosperms here. We should go with the option fungi. So option A is correct. Next, 35. Select the correct statement about biodiversity. The desert areas of Rajasthan and Gujarat have very high levels of desert animals, species as well as numerous rare animals. Large-scale planting of BT cotton has no adverse effect on biodiversity. Western Ghats have a very high degree of species richness and endemism. That is correct, no? Because Western Ghats is a biodiversity hotspot. Biodiversity hotspot is always characterized by high species richness and endemism. What do you mean by endemism? When species of plants and animals are confined to particular area, they are not found in other geographical areas. That phenomena is called endemism, and such species are called endemic species. Students should not confuse between endemic species and endangered species. What is an endemic species? A plant or animal species confined to a particular region and not found in other areas is called endemic. Like kangaroo is endemic to Australia. You don't find kangaroo in any other part of the world. So that is called endemic. Endangered means the species which is facing the threat of extinction in the near future is called endangered species. Next. Question number 36. For 35, C is the answer for 36. Sacred groves are specially useful in conserving rare and threatened species. You know what are sacred groves? Patches of forest protected on the name of local deity. Deity means God. Understand? So small patches of forest which are protected on the names of local gods. Such patches of forests are called sacred groves. In the textbook we have Khashia and Jenshia hills of Meghalaya, Aravalli hills of Rajasthan, Sarguja, Chanda and Bastar areas of Madhya Pradesh are the best examples for sacred groves. In sacred groves, no human intervention is there because people believe that in that patch of forest we belong to some god, so people do not disturb the forest. So all the plants and animal species living in that forest area are naturally protected. So answer is conserving rare and threatened species. Option B is correct for question number 36. 37. Which one of the following is not used for ex situ plant conservation? So we have to choose which is in situ plant conservation out of the given option. Seed banks, shifting cultivation, botanical garden, field gene banks. So option B for this, because shifting cultivation is not associated with biodiversity conservation. Next, question number 38. The organization which publishes the red list of species is IUCN, isn't it? So IUCN, I already told you what is IUCN. International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. Red list means the species of plants and animals which got extinct, which are facing the threat of extinction. All such things are published or announced by whom? IUCN. So simply students should remember, who maintains red list or red data book, it is called. So who maintains or who publishes red list or red data book? Answer should be IUCN, stands for International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. Okay. Question number 39. A species facing extremely high risk of extinction in the immediate future is called, for this answer is option D, that is critically endangered. So here I want student to remember, always we talk about endangered species, but endangered in the red list, I said no, in the red list published by IUCN, they use different words, different terminology to explain different things, like they use endangered, critically endangered, vulnerable, like that they say. So like vulnerable in the sense which are facing the threat of extinction in the long term future, means still considerable number of living members of that species are present. Endangered in the sense species which are going to get extinct in the medium term future. And here question is, the species facing extreme high risk of extinction in the immediate future, what does it mean? Just 1 or 2 living members of that species are available, and these 1 or 2 members also going to get extinct in the very near future or immediate future. Such species are called critically endangered. There will be many categories, but at least 3 categories of red list you have to remember. Vulnerable, endangered, critically endangered. Vulnerable means the species facing the threat of extinction in the long term future. Endangered, species facing the threat of extinction in the medium term future. Critically endangered, species facing the threat of extinction in the nearest future or in the immediate future. So answer is D for this. Question number 40. A pie chart is given. Is the representation of extent of global diversity of invertebrate. So invertebrate groups I already told you when you look into this pie chart. So maximum 70% are insects only. As we are talking about only invertebrates, insects will be more than. So insects, next comes molluscans, then crustaceans and all other invertebrates. So students should remember, among the invertebrates, the taxonomic group with highest diversity and highest number of species means insects. And everybody knows, but based on the pie chart, if they want to frame a question, they may ask you like this: the taxonomic group with the second most species diversity, second most highest species diversity, then we have to go with, because in pie chart this area only indicates the number of species, right? If you consider it as 100%, you can see around 80% are insects here only among the invertebrates, and the next size is given to whom? Molluscans. See, means after the insect, highest species are present in mollusca. So the second most abundant taxonomic group of insects, answer should be molluscans, like that, among the invertebrates. Next comes crustaceans. Crustaceans also a class of arthropods, and remaining this area is given to all other invertebrates, means all other invertebrates may constitute just 10% of total invertebrates. 90% of the invertebrate species are of what now? Insects, molluscans and crustaceans only. That's why if you remember, Arthropoda is the largest phylum in the animal kingdom. Mollusca is the second largest phylum of the animal kingdom. Next, so for this, if you look into this chart, you will get the answer. A should be insects, B should be molluscans, C crustaceans, D other animal groups. First option is correct. Next, question number 41. The species confined to a particular region and not found elsewhere is termed, already I told you, endemic. When a species confined to a particular region and not found in other regions, such species are called endemic species. Option D is correct for question number 41. 42. Which is the national aquatic animal of India? Just for your general knowledge, this question I have given. For this option is river dolphin. National animal. You know, national animal is different. National bird is different. And here, national aquatic animal. National aquatic animal of India. Answer is river dolphin. Option B is correct. Next, joint forest management. Already I told you, JFM. Joint forest management concept was introduced in India during 1980s. Before this, in question only it is given. Government of India in 1980s has introduced a concept. So here is asked. India has introduced a concept called JFM in 1980s. Okay. Option C is correct. Next, 44. Red list contains the data or information on threatened species. That's all. Threatened means which are facing the threat of extinction. Option C is correct. 45. The region of Biosphere Reserve which is legally protected and where no human activity is allowed is known as. For this question, little explanation is required. Biosphere Reserve. This is the design of a Biosphere Reserve. Biosphere Reserve has 3 zones. You can see here. The center of the Biosphere Reserve, where no human activity is allowed, no humans are allowed to enter this zone, that is called core zone. Next, buffer zone. So you can see the center where no human activity is allowed is called core zone. Next to it, one more zone is present, that is called buffer zone. And buffer zone is the region where limited human activity is allowed. Limited human activity means research and education. Normal people are not allowed there. Only scientists and some research students can enter. They can make their studies related to wildlife. So such zone is called buffer zone. So what is a buffer zone? Region of the Biosphere Reserve where the limited human activity like education and research are allowed. Finally, the transition zone. This is the zone where normal human dwellings are present, because biosphere reserves, national parks are not artificially constructed. It is an existing forest only. Government will announce this area of the forest is from tomorrow onwards it is announced as a biosphere reserve. But in that forest, some people will be living where they have to go, and they are allowed to live. They are allowed to live in which zone of the biosphere reserve? Transition zone. So that is how this is the design of a biosphere reserve. In a biosphere reserve, how many zones are present? 3 zones are present. Which are they? Core zone, buffer zone, transition zone. What is a core zone? Center of the biosphere reserve where no human activity is allowed. For our question, that is only the answer, right? If you see the question, the region 45, the region of biosphere reserve which legally protected where no human activity is allowed. Answer is core zone. If the question is asked, limited human activity like education and research is allowed, then answer should be buffer zone. And the zone of the biosphere reserve where human dwellings are present, that is transition zone. Next, 46. Alexander Van Humboldt described for the first time which concept? Species area relationship. Already I told you. SAR stands for what? Species area relationship was the idea of whom? The great Alexander Van Humboldt. Option C is correct. 47. Which of the following features should be shown by a stable community? Characters of stable community you have studied for board exam also. All of the above is correct, right? Like when a community or ecosystem is said to be stable, what are the characters it must possess? Resistant to invasion of alien species, resistant to occasional disturbances, less variation in year-to-year productivity. Any community showing these three characters is said to be stable. So option D is correct. 48. According to the concept of species area relationship, option A is correct. You can see directly the number of species in an area increases with the size of area up to certain extent. Concept of Alexander Van Humboldt. Species diversity increases with increasing explored area up to certain limit. Okay. Next. Question number 49. Which of the following organisms are badly affected when large habitats are broken up into small fragments due to various human activities? If you see this question is associated with the first reason for biodiversity loss, that is habitat loss and fragmentation. So you know which animals are badly affected? The animals with migratory habits. Actually, the mammals and birds which require large territories, and the animals with migratory habits are affected when a large forest is broken into small fragments. Remaining all options you can see. Mammals requiring small territories, no. Mammals requiring large territories are affected. So out of the given option, suitable answer is C, that is animals with migratory habits. Question number 50. Select the incorrect statement with respect to greater biological diversity in tropics. Once again, tropical regions are with great biodiversity when compared to temperate regions. What is the reason? Tropical latitudes have remained relatively undisturbed for millions of years. You know, speciation is the matter of time. Option A is correct. Tropical environments have more seasonal variations and are less predictable than temperate. This is wrong. Tropical environments have less seasonal variation and conditions are predictable. There is more solar energy available. So A and C are correct. Which is incorrect we have to find. So B is only incorrect. Option B is correct. Next, 51. I already told you. Thylacine. Match the following. Column 1. Thylacine is of Australia. So A should be 3. Jodu is of Mauritius. B should be 4. So A 3, B 4. We have only one option, that is C. Remaining you know. Quagga of Africa, Stellar Cicava of Russia. Option C is correct. 52. Biodiversity loss occurs due to habitat loss and fragmentation, co-extinction, over-exploitation, alien species invasion. All are correct, no? These are the 4 reasons for biodiversity loss. 4 reasons for biodiversity loss together called evil quartet. Okay, so option D is correct. 53. If the Bengal tiger becomes extinct, it's very simple. If the Bengal tiger becomes extinct, one species is extinct, the total number of genes present in a population or a species is called gene pool. See the option C, its gene pool will be lost forever. So Bengal tiger population got extinct means all the genes present in Bengal tiger got extinct. All the genes present in Bengal tiger population forms a gene pool, and that gene pool is said to be lost forever. Option C is correct. Next, 54. India has dash percentage of world's land area. It shares the global species diversity an impressive percentage. So direct statement is given. India is one of the 12 mega diversity areas of the world. So students should remember, in the world, how many mega biodiversity countries are present? In the world, 12 mega biodiversity countries are present. Out of 12 mega biodiversity countries, India is one among them. What makes India one of the 12 mega diversity countries? Because India occupies just 2.4% of world's land area, but in India contributes 8.1% of the total global species diversity. Means it is occupying only 2.4% of world's land area, But if you look into total world species diversity, 8.1% of the species of the world are present in India. So for this option D is correct. 2.4% land area, 8.1% species diversity. Question number 55. How do forests help control drought conditions? Because forests bring rainfall, that's all. Option A is correct. A biosphere reserve preserves wild population, traditional lifestyles of tribes, genetic resources of organisms. All of this, because in biosphere reserve already I told you, tribals are allowed to stay there. We conserve their lifestyles also there. We never tell them go out of this region. Option D is correct. 57. Biosphere reserve differs from national parks and wildlife sanctuaries because option D is option people are an integral part of the system. Option B is correct because in national parks and wildlife sanctuaries people are not allowed to stay there, but in biosphere reserve people are allowed to stay. So that's why in a biosphere reserve people are an integral part of that system, but in national parks and wildlife sanctuaries normal people, normal human dwellings are never present. Okay. So 57 question, option B is correct. Next 58. Which one is matching sanctuary? Sanctuaries are the parts of national parks only, so you should not consider here. Gir National Park. Gir National Park is present in Gujarat, and in Gir National Park what is protected? Asiatic lions are protected. That is only matching there. Option A is correct. Next you see Kaziranga National Park. Kaziranga National Park, what is protected? One-horned rhino is protected, but here it is given as musk deer. That is wrong. Sundarbans, rhino is given. Actually, Sundarbans National Park is in West Bengal. In West Bengal, Bengal tigers are protected. In Sundarbans National Park, which animal is protected? Bengal tiger is protected. But here it is given as rhino. That is wrong. Periyar National Park. Periyar National Park, tiger is given. Actually, Periyar National Park is in Kerala. In Periyar National Park, elephants are protected, not tigers. So what is our question? Which one is matching sanctuary? Option A is correct. Gir, lions are protected. Next, 59. Choose the wrongly matched pair. World Summit on Sustainable Development 2002 Johannesburg. This is correct now. In this chapter, students should remember two international conventions. Earth Summit 1992, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And what was that summit? Conservation and sustainable utilization of biodiversity. So an international conference or international convention held in the year 1992. What is its name? Earth Summit. Where does it held? In Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. A follow-up convention on biodiversity conservation held after 10 years in the year 2002. Where? In Johannesburg, South Africa. So that's why it is correct. Next. Carrot grass, lantana it is given. This is only wrongly matched pair. The normal grass which is growing here, that is called carrot grass. What is its biological name? Parthenium. It is not lantana. So this match is not correct here. So we have to choose B. Because remaining you see, wildlife safari park, XC2 conservation, that is correct. Amazonian rainforest, lungs of the planet. Here I want to tell you, Amazonian rainforest of South America is popularly known as lungs of the planet because 20% of the total global oxygen is released by the trees present in Amazonian rainforest of South America. That's why Amazonian rainforest of South America is popularly known as lungs of the planet. Why it is popularly called lungs of the planet? Because 20% of the total global oxygen is released by the trees of South Amazonian rainforest of South America. So that is correct. So option B is wrongly matched pair here. 59. Option B. Finally, last question. The historic convention on biological diversity held in Rio de Janeiro in 1992. Earth Summit already I told you. 1992, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Earth Summit on biodiversity conservation. 2002, World Summit on biodiversity conservation held at Johannesburg, South Africa. Okay, so this is all about the chapter biodiversity. I repeat, a memory based chapter, many things to be memorized. Students who are serious for CET preparation, one of the very important chapters because many students don't answer these memory based questions. Thank you.